Welcome back. This time we're talking about Thor Ragnarok, a film that is somehow the 17th installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not only just boggles my mind, it also makes me feel a little old, although these movies have been coming out at a pretty fast clip, so it hasn't been that long since it started. But what's amazing is they're essentially, in my view, 16-1 when it comes to these films. I've mentioned before, the only Marvel Cinematic Universe film that I really didn't get behind was Iron Man 2, and that was mostly because it had too many plot threads. As far as the Thor movies, I really like them. The first Thor is a movie that I like a lot more than I think most people do. It was kind of a risk at the time to tell a story that honestly didn't have a lot of action. I know that's one of the complaints. But it did a good job of developing the characters and honestly giving us the best villain ever of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Loki. In my personal opinion, gave me also one of my favorite side characters, Darcy Lewis, played by Kat Dennings. Now, as far as Thor 2 goes, I still enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much. It was also sort of the beginnings of the common villain problem that the MCU films have had over the years, in which we have a relatively bland villain surrounded by a disposable army. It's just something that we've seen in subsequent films, and not necessarily bad ones, like Guardians of the Galaxy. The same complaint could be made there. I enjoyed Thor 2, mostly because I enjoyed the characters of Thor and Jane and Darcy, and everyone else involved. And now we have Thor Ragnarok, which is a very different movie than the first two. A lot of comparisons have been made to the Guardians of the Galaxy because it takes place in space, as well as the amount of humor involved. And those comparisons aren't wrong. The other thing that you can compare between those two films is they're both really, really good. Thor Ragnarok is directed by Taika Waititi. I think I might have gotten that right. Who gave us the hilarious mockumentary What We Do in the Shadows. If you have not seen that film, stop now, go watch it, and come back and watch my review later. I know it's available on Amazon Prime streaming right now as I'm filming this, because I actually started watching it after coming home from seeing Thor Ragnarok. I just wanted to watch it again. He also did the surprisingly heartfelt film Hunt for the Wilder People. And we can see the strengths of those films in Thor Ragnarok. It is a very, very funny movie. It is a jokey movie. But for the most part, with a few exceptions, the jokes don't overshadow the story. But at the same time, the jokes are really kind of necessary, because if you strip away all of the humor, this is actually a pretty dark story. It's Ragnarok, which, if you have any knowledge of Norse mythology, you know is the end of the Norse gods, which doesn't herald well for our heroes in this film. Thor Ragnarok essentially picks up two major plot threads, one resulting from the end of Thor 2 and the other at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron. In Thor 2, it ended with Loki having replaced Odin, and Thor coming to Earth to live with Jane. And Age of Ultron, Thor got a vision of the coming Ragnarok and left Earth at the end of that film to investigate what might befall his people. We pick up the story 2 years later at the beginning of this film, where he has been hunting down clues about the coming Ragnarok. And upon thinking that he may have actually stopped it, he discovers that there's an even larger and more pressing threat coming to Asgard, and that is the form of Hela, played by Cate Blanchett. I'm not going to give away her relationship to Thor and Loki and Odin and how it all plays together. I will say it's not exactly how Norse mythology would tell us, but she is a scary, scary villain. I'll leave it at that. And events happen where Thor is basically sidelined. He is taken prisoner and is kind of being held as a gladiator slave, and is going to have to fight against the champion. And the trailers have pretty much all given away who it is, so I guess I can say that it is the Hulk. who has been missing also since the end of Age of Ultron. And the result is an action-packed, laugh-producing superhero movie. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. There are a couple occasions where the jokes do overshadow the story. I always say that, like, let a moment sort of just, rest before we get the joke. And there's a couple times where they don't do it, but I understand why they did it the way they did. Overall, I'm not sure I would place this one, and this will probably be a minority opinion, but I don't think I would place it above the original Thor, because as I said, I ranked that one a lot higher than most. Thor and the Hulk are pretty much the Avengers' strongest members, and most Asgardians could pretty much paste any human they go up against. So this really is sort of a battle of gods. They actually throw the word gods around a lot. Hela being the god of death, Thor being the god of thunder. So we did lose a little bit of the human element, and a lot of the side characters that we had grown to like in the earlier Thor movies, namely Jane and Darcy, are just not there, because this film, except for about 20 minutes, if that, do not take place on Earth. Which is fun in itself, but we lose a little bit of that human element, and I did miss it a little bit. So I think if I were to do a ranking of the Thor films, this would be just below the original Thor. But as I said, I really like that film. I really like this one as well. So if you have not had a chance to see Thor Ragnarok yet, I know this review is up a bit late, definitely go check it out if you're a fan of Thor, if you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, or if you just think it looks cool, because it really is pretty cool. So this one, I'm going to turn it over to you. What did you think about Thor Ragnarok? And what is your favorite Thor movie out of the three? As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.